When I was younger, me and a group of kids would always play football in the football pitch outside of our house. It was in the middle of summer holidays, which meant 6 weeks off school. We had been playing football all afternoon, and my mum would always shout out the door that dinner was ready. I heard her shout, so I came running home. I crossed through the field, and I noticed a young boy similar age to me looking out of the window. He must have been watching us play football all afternoon. I got home, ate my dinner, and spent the evening playing on my PlayStation. The next day, my friend Alex knocked on the door with a football in his hands. I told him yesterday I saw a boy looking out the window. Maybe he wants to play with us. I pointed to the house, and Alex said, "If you see him look out the window, we'll knock on the door." We went to the field and began to play football, and as the time went by, more and more kids got involved, enough to play a match. I forgot all about the boy looking out of the window. We all went to the local shop and got some drinks and snacks. We went back to the playing field, and I saw the young boy again, looking out of the window. I said to Alex, who was sat next to me, "Look, the boy, he's in the window." We looked again, and the boy was no longer looking out the window. Me and Alex went over to the house to see if the boy wanted to play with us. I knocked on the door, and an old man answered. I said, "Your son keeps looking out the window. Does he want to play football?" The old man stared at us and started to cry. I stood in silence, and I was quite confused. He looked at me and said, "I no longer have a son. He died when he was 10, many, many years ago." I immediately got goosebumps. I said, "But your son, he's been looking through the window. I saw him just now, and I saw him yesterday." The man invited me and Alex into the house. Being curious kids, we went inside. He showed us his son's bedroom, which was now his office. There was a picture of his son on his office desk. I said to the man, and I said to Alex, "This is the boy I had been seeing, looking through the window." The man said, "My son died when he was 10, over 20 years ago. He was an active lad who always loved to play football." Confused and pretty creeped out, I looked out the window, which looked directly onto the football field. The same window that the boy had been standing in and looking at me. A couple of weeks went by, and I saw the boy again. I tried to ignore it, as it scared me that I was seeing a ghost. I looked away, and the boy was still there, and he was waving at me. I don't know why, but I waved back. Alex said, "What are you waving at?" I looked to the window again, and the boy was gone. I never saw the young boy again. Me and my older brother, we used to share a bedroom when we were younger. We grew up watching wrestling in the evenings and making dens at night. My brother was 2 years older than me. I remember when I was 8 and he was 10, we made a den out of a bedsheet we grabbed from the airing cupboard. The bedsheet acted like a roof over our beds. We both had single beds. My brother was by the window and mine was by the door. It was a summer's evening, so it didn't get dark until around 10, but my mum and dad were strict, and it was lights out at 9 p.m. My brother and I shared a Game Boy Color. We took it in turns each night. We recently got Pokemon Yellow, and it was my brother's turn to borrow it. I slowly went to sleep, and woke around midnight to the Game Boy falling out of my brother's bed and hitting the floor. I needed to go to the toilet. My eyes were already adjusted to the darkness, so I walked to the bathroom, which was the left side of my bedroom. I could hear weird noises coming from downstairs. I couldn't understand what the noises were, and everybody in the house were asleep. It sounded like something dragging along the floor. I ignored it, and I went back to bed, and I fell asleep. I woke again, in the early hours, to the dragging noises, but this time, they were coming from the landing, just outside our bedroom. I woke my brother. He said, "What is that noise?" The noise became louder, and the bedroom door opened. We both hid under the duvet. The noise was now in our bedroom. Terrified under my duvet, I shouted for my mum and dad. They came rushing to the room to turn the lights on. There was no one in our room. Me and my brother had no idea what this was, and I wish this was the only occasion that this happened, but unfortunately, things only got worse. A couple of nights later, my brother woke me to the sound of him screaming. My mum and dad again rushed to our bedroom, turned the lights on, and no one was in there. He said there was a man in our room. He was floating, but had a walking stick and a top hat. My brother was pale and sweating heavily. He would never lie, and I knew he was telling the truth. For the next couple of weeks, we stayed in our parents' bedroom until my brother was ready to sleep in our own bedroom again. The first night we moved back into our bedroom, I was playing on the Game Boy Color. I also plugged the earphones in. I was really scared to be sleeping in our bedroom again, and I decided to play the Game Boy until I physically couldn't stay awake anymore. I started to drift off, and I turned the Game Boy off. I put the Game Boy on my bedside table. As I turned, I noticed the bedroom door had opened. Stood over my brother's bed was the man he described, a tall floating man with a top hat and a walking stick, hovering over his bed. I shouted again for my mum and dad. The tall man didn't move, and as soon as the lights came on, he disappeared. The next morning, my dad decided to switch our bedrooms around in an attempt for this to stop, but unfortunately, this only lasted a number of weeks. Every other evening, either me or my brother would wake to seeing this terrifying tall man in our bedroom. After about a year, my parents decided to sell the house, and luckily, it sold quickly. We stayed in the village and moved to a bigger house where me and my brother would have our own bedrooms. It's been over 20 years, and me and my brother still don't talk about the floating man. I spoke to my dad about it not too long ago, and he said whatever it was, or whoever it was, his focus was on your brother. As much as he terrified me, the floating man would always go to look at my brother. This is the only time me and my brother had ever seen a ghost. It ruined our childhood for over a year, and we never understood who he was. I would like to thank the two people that sent these two true scary horror stories in to me, and if you'd like your story shared, please write to me at mrfearyoutube@outlook.com. And if you enjoy scary horror stories, please consider subscribing and click on the next video.